G'day, Aussie Bonsai bloke here, how you going? Well, today I'm going to be working on this red river gum, Australian native eucalypt, and I collected this one probably 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. I was just slashing the vineyard, and this was in the middle of a row of the vineyard, obviously a lot smaller than it is now, only about this high off the ground. Slashed it, kept going over the top, created a bit of a stump on the ground. So there's a single tree. Underneath all this moss is actually some connecting trunks, which I may expose in this video, I'm not sure. I know I should, but I am a bit slack, a bit lazy. But anyway, give it a bit of a trim. Basically I've let it grow for a fair while now. One thing I've learned with these red river gum, is don't get too attached to any one single branch, because at the drop of a hat any one of these branches could die off, or even trunks. I'll just show you at the back. Branch here's died off. I'm actually leaving them. I'm leaving the dead branches, because part of the common theme with Australian native eucalypts is you see dead branches all over them. This one's dead, this one's dead. Down here, this one's dead, this one's dead. One at the back here is dead. So you can see a common thing, you know, like a lot of stuff dies and then they just sort of grow on elsewhere. So, but I think overall the tree's starting to look pretty cool. It's getting quite big. This trunk here was only thinner than my little finger, and now it's, you know, fatter than my thumb, so, and that's all in a pot, so it's growing pretty well. So I'm just going to cut it back to probably 4 sets of leaves at any location. I found that in time these leaves have actually reduced. These leaves used to be a heck of a lot bigger than they are now, so I reckon they have reduced. I mean, the native eucalypt's a bit of a hard one. Not a lot of people do them as bonsai because, one, the leaves don't reduce too well, and two, like I was just saying, they can just drop branches at any one time without any real rhyme or reason. Apart from very early on this, I haven't wired it since. Clip and grow is probably a little bit more friendly towards the tree, hopefully slowing down the, you know, branch dropping episodes that seem to happen. Don't know what more I can say about them. They, you know, they're a bit of a challenge, but it is good to see a native eucalypt as a bonsai, because not a lot of people do it. So that's one thing, a bit of a challenge. I haven't really learnt any good techniques to go with them, so I can't really give you any good techniques on how to look after them. I feed it with Thrive all-purpose fertiliser. Doesn't seem to hurt it, seems to thrive okay. What else? You know, drops limbs. Takes a lot of water, I tell you that. Need a lot of water for these things. I actually, on hotter days, I actually put this in a bit of a water bath and just let it sit there, and it just loves it. Absolutely loves having a water bath on a hot day. I mean, as you can imagine, they grow in the banks of the river, and in the banks of the river they, you know, get flooded and have the roots under water half the time. So, I mean, you can imagine that that's pretty much what they like. Out of the river system, need a fair bit of water. Otherwise, yeah, they, you know, they smell nice, a nice tree, and they just remind you of the Australian outback. So I guess that's the main reason why I persist with this one. I have better trees in my collection, but I don't know, for some reason this tree, you know, it makes me happy. I like this tree, so I persist with it. But anyway, I'll just finish trimming this tree. I'm just cutting everything back to reasonably short nodes where there's still a leaf or two, and also cutting it back to 2 shoots from any location, getting rid of most places where there's 3. Any weak interior branches I'm going to let grow, because from my experience, if you cut that back when you've got a weak growth, chances are that whole branch could die, and generally does, because it's almost like the tree needs an excuse to drop another branch, and you give it a fair good old excuse if you cut back some of the weak growth. You figure, well, that part of the tree is not doing bugger all for me, so I may as well dump that. So just be careful, don't cut back any weak growth too much, cut back your stronger growth. And I'm not even really pruning for shape, all I'm doing is pruning to fill in gaps, trying to keep the branches pretty much facing out into where there are gaps. You know, that's about it. The whole thing's pretty much shaped itself. I haven't really done a lot to this tree at all, to be honest. I just trim it back every now and then, let it grow again, then trim it, let it grow, trim it, let it grow. As you can see, it's not an overly hard trim. Here where you've got a whole branch almost dead and only one live bit on it, I'm going to leave the whole thing, because this bit's dead, that bit's dead, bit behind is dead. I'm going to leave the whole thing, and hopefully that'll force it to keep growing. Otherwise, like I said, it'll probably just drop that branch if I cut that off now. I've got a crossing branch here, but that doesn't bother me. It's up in the canopy. Trees do it naturally. So yeah, while I've been talking to you, rambling on, pretty much done. Fully trimmed up for a bit longer. That's it. I'll give you a spin of the tree on the way out. That's about it. I just love the smell. Absolutely love the smell of these eucalypts. I'll show you how much I've cut off actually. It actually is a fair bit when you think about it. You know, it didn't seem like much, but it is a fair bit. There's a bit of olive. Take a big rip of the eucalypt. Oh, you could get high on that stuff. Absolutely beautiful. One of the best smelling trees around, I reckon. Good stuff. Alright, that'll clear up the nose. Okay, so I'll give you a bit of a spin now. Oh, I've got to work out where. Yeah, I'll just pull this off. This moss has covered up the whole trunk. This trunk's actually connecting the whole way round. Just forgot to clean it off. I just want to show you that it's connecting. So I'll give you a spin of the tree, and then I'll just give you a quick close-up of the trunk as well. So you can see I'm starting to uncover the trunk here, just really quickly. I'll let the moss get a bit out of control over winter, I suppose. This hasn't had a cutback since last summer, so this is first cutback. And it had a pretty quiet end to summer really from last year, because it did have a dry day where it didn't like it too much and it dropped all its leaves, and it took a while to get its health back, to be honest, but that's all good. Seems happy. Okay. So that's pretty much the trunk uncovered. I'll give you a bit of a spin in a second. Just make sure I've got everything. Should really get a toothbrush and clean that off. But I am a bit lazy, so I probably will not. But I just wanted to show you the trunk, that's all. Actually goes a fair way into the soil line here. So yeah, this is all part of the same tree. It was just slashed over in the vineyard. I used to slash over it, and then one day I thought, oh, the poor tree, I'll pick it up and turn it into a bonsai. Okay, so that looks pretty cool now that I've exposed it. Should have done that earlier, but anyway, it's all good. Bark's still on there. And you know, these things shed their bark constantly anyway. So you don't get any old craggly bark or corky bark on these things. So even if you put moss on and the bark fell off, that happens naturally. Even up the top of the tree, it'll just shed it and the bark will fall off. Okay, so I'll give you a bit of a spin. You can see where the moss line was. It was all the way up here. Now we can see the trunk again. Alternatively, you can actually paint the moss with vinegar, and that'll 100% get rid of the moss. It'll die, and it just sort of keeps it under control. Knock it back with a bit of vinegar. But in this case, I just pulled it off, and it seems alright. So that's that. Right, let's have a spin of the tree. Cheers for watching. Aussie Bonsai Bloke. Like, share, subscribe, tell your mates, and I'll catch you next time.